The Israeli military has confirmed that the strikes aimed at Hezbollah's headquarters in Beirut has killed Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah. In fact, Israeli strikes targeted 6 buildings in Beirut's southern suburb of Harith, marking the largest assault in the Lebanese capital amid nearly a year of the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. Now, remember, Nasrallah has been at the helm of the Lebanese militant group for the past 3 decades, significantly strengthening its position as one of the most formidable paramilitary organizations in the Middle East. In fact, the IDF has confirmed this on social media as well. This, as the latest that we're getting, is that Israel has hacked into the Beirut airport control tower. So this could be a major offensive as well as far as Beirut is concerned. Remember, this is a new front, perhaps, as many would describe it, in the entire situation in the Middle East. But what has been most significant is the killing of the Hezbollah chief. Let me go straight across to my colleague Mohammad Ghazali, who tracks foreign affairs for us. So, Ghazali, very important there that the Hezbollah chief has been killed, and also now Israel hacking into the Beirut airport control tower. What's the latest that you have?
See, we all know that how Israel is technologically advanced and much more advanced than what we could see the technical capabilities of Iran or even Lebanon. So certainly it's also a ploy, because Israel doesn't want that Hezbollah should regroup after the reported assassination of Mr. Nasrallah. So, though Hezbollah has been refuting all these reports, and they claim that perhaps Mr. Nasrallah was not in the building, or he had left, or he had survived the assassination attempt. Israel claims that Mr. Nasrallah has been killed. And now Israel also is sensing that since Monday, since those pager blast, walkie-talkie explosions and all, many of the foot soldiers and senior commanders of Hezbollah have been killed. And this is the right time to at least go for the offensive and ensure that there is complete elimination of Hezbollah. Israel had been planning that for Hamas for the last 1 year. They have not achieved it yet. But by killing Mr. Nasrallah, it's a very significant development. It's a big achievement for Israel, because this was more of a deception for its opponents. While Mr. Netanyahu was addressing the United Nations yesterday, he had already given the permission to the Israeli Air Force to go for this strike. Now, what could happen next? We have not received any comment from the Iran supreme leader, because Iran is the main supporter of these groups in Middle East, what it calls the axis of resistance, and what Israel calls the axis of evil. So right now, their aerial strikes are still going on in other areas of Beirut and different areas of Lebanon. Israel doesn't want to give any time for Hezbollah and its leftover leaders to regroup, yet Hezbollah is still firing rockets towards Israeli territory. The situation has every potential to escalate right now, but we'll have to see whether Iran and its other proxies or other militias in the Middle East will all launch a joint operation against Israel or not, which doesn't look very likely, because even after the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, Iran had not gone for a full-blown war or a very potential retaliation which everybody was expecting. So Iran has been trying deliberately to keep itself away from the war and operate in the Middle East through its other militias like Houthis in Yemen, the Shiite militias in Iraq, or even Hezbollah. But this is a big damage for Iran as well, because in Syria, Hezbollah was operational in Syria as well. Hassan Nasrallah was one of the prominent figures in that particular region in Levant belt of the Middle East. And we would see that how he used to address the nation. And Hezbollah was seen as a state within a state in Lebanon. And now, since his assassination, if the reports of Israeli media or claims by the IDF is confirmed, then certainly it's a big blow. But has Hezbollah been eliminated? That is a far gone conclusion for now, because these groups regroup. They have enough members to launch an attack, but certainly the group is appearing as leaderless for now.
That's very important perspective, in fact, Ghazali, that you're giving us. In fact, as you also pointed out, that Nasrallah was perhaps the most prominent figure in Lebanon, perhaps the only one with the capability of brokering peace or waging a war. But his assassination, as you said, has dealt a severe blow to Lebanon and, of course, Iran as well. But what next? This seems now like a multi-front war into a wider regional conflict as well, with West Asia pushed to the precipice, completely.
Yeah, if you see the developments in the last 24 hours, Mr. Netanyahu was showing 2 maps in United Nations yesterday. One was in curse or evil, and the other was something which Netanyahu preferred, in which he showed those potential allies of Middle East who have either normalized relations with Israel or are in the process of normalizing relations with Israel. But ironically, most of the Arab leaders who are part of the United Nations or the states they represent, they had all walked out before Netanyahu rose to address the United Nations yesterday. But now, the Jordan's foreign minister yesterday told in an open session in the United Nations that we can guarantee security to Israel if Israel agrees for a two-state solution. But Israeli Prime Minister has been accused of having another plans. That other plans is of greater Israel, expansionism and occupying more land. So all eyes will be now on IDF for the Israeli Air Force and the Defense Forces, whether they would go for a ground invasion in Lebanon to completely eliminate or engage with the Hezbollah fighters on ground, because they did that with Hamas in Gaza for the last 1 year, and they have not been able to eliminate Hamas from Gaza. Hamas still continues to fire rockets from Gaza towards Israel, and the same goes with Hezbollah. Mr. Netanyahu also said that until and unless all the operational goals of Israel is achieved, the war will continue. He seems to be in no mood to accept any kind of truce, a kind of pause or a ceasefire with either Hamas or with Hezbollah in Lebanon. So certainly both parties, we all say that both parties are willing for war, but certainly Israel looks for a full-blown war with both these on both these fronts, one with Hamas, which is already going on for the last 1 year, and also with Hezbollah. But with the assassination of Nasrallah, all eyes will be on these groups, whether they are ready for the war, whether they retaliate, whether how and when they will retaliate towards Israel.
Ghazali, as you mentioned earlier as well, that Iran is perhaps looking at this very, very closely. In fact, Iran's supreme leader has also been taken to safety. In fact, people, civilians from hospitals, etc., are also being evacuated. What is the role of Iran in this entire conflict? Break it down for us.
See, Iran is also a global superpower, and Iran is also an international pariah because West has put so many sanctions against it. And now Iran is getting closer with two other superpowers, China and Russia. Iran has been very actively involved when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war by providing drones to Russia, by also sort of repairing those faulty drones or damaged drones which Russia has been using against Ukraine in the war. Iran also happens to be the source of aid, arms and ammunition for all these militias or all these groups who are operating in Middle East, like I mentioned, for Houthis in Yemen, for Hezbollah in Lebanon, and for other militias in Iraq. Now, Iran, through Syria and Iraq, manages to send these weapons to these groups. But now, since Israel has also sort of hacked the coordination system at the Beirut airport, and it has also warned, the Israeli Defense Forces have also warned Beirut to ensure that no civilian flights or civilian airports should not be used for military purposes. That is a kind of warning which Israel feels that after this attack, Iran will try to push for more weapons in that region, and that is why this airport has to be controlled. And Israel has earlier damaged the Beirut airport back in 2006 when the war had broke out between Hezbollah and Israel. Israel continues to attack the airport in Syria, fearing the same thing, that Iran pushes weapons through these spaces. So it looks very likely now that Iran is facing a lot of pressure. It's a battle of perception as well, because if Iran doesn't retaliate now, its proxies in this region will think that perhaps the leadership is not willing to retaliate, is not willing to cooperate with them. And it will be a big disappointment for these groups like Hamas and Hezbollah who have been fighting against Israel.
Absolutely. Ghazali, thanks very much for joining us with that very comprehensive update. As Ghazali is reporting, well, perhaps almost like a wider regional conflict. Now Iran watching this very, very closely. Iran's supreme leader has been taken to safety. But joining me on the show also is Zaki Zaidi, former researcher at IDSA Middle East, analyst as well. Thanks very much, Mr. Zaidi, for being with us. How do you look at these developments? It seems like it has now escalated into a wider regional conflict with multiple fronts now, and Israel's message also seems to be very clear. In fact, they've said that this is not our last tool in the toolbox, in our arsenal, and we are going to go for anybody who poses a threat to Israel. How do you read into this?
Hi, thank you for having me on your show. First of all, this is a very, very big blow to Iran.
Yes.
What they call as the axis of resistance. And Hassan Nasrallah was a very prominent leader and very prominent part of that axis of resistance, the leader of Hezbollah, like a very charismatic leader from the Lebanese population, and part of resistance that Iran calls as axis of resistance. After this incident, first, there is a very high likelihood that this whole region could plunge in a full-scale war. And there is a very extreme pressure on Iran to respond, at least because after the killing of Ismail Haniyeh and then possible killing of Hassan Nasrallah, the members of the Axis are looking up to Iran to defend them, at least. And just to understand that how dangerous it could be for the whole region. Yesterday, United Nations Security Council had a special meeting on the issue of Gaza, but it was overwhelmed with the issue of Lebanon because of this very intense strikes in Beirut, which possibly killed Nasrallah. One thing I would like to add that the Israeli linked military accounts and then the news channels and the newspapers are saying that Nasrallah has been confirmed killed. But I take it with a pinch of salt because Nasrallah is his security is paramount to the Axis, and clarifying its status until unless he's secured, whether he's injured or that, they are not going to say it. And Hezbollah till now has not put any official statement of his status. So he could be possibly killed, he could be possibly injured, or he might be unharmed. So we still don't know.
Though
so
they've said that they've lost contact with him since last night, but as you said, that this has to be taken with a pinch of salt, given the fact that these are still claims of the IDF, perhaps also in their bid to send out a larger message that Israel is going to go for all its enemies. But what does it mean for the larger conflict, given the fact that West Asia has almost been pushed to a precipice completely now, with multiple fronts in the war? What do you see as a possible solution to this? Because, of course, the fact of the matter is that it's also innocent civilians that are being killed in these airstrikes.
See, most of the, especially the Western countries also, they have warned Arab countries that Prime Minister Netanyahu has been very desperate for war, a regional war in the region. And he very dearly wishes to drag US into the conflict and to have a direct US-Iranian conflict. And after this escalation, it is very difficult to say that which direction the region can possibly go, and which is very less likely that Hezbollah is going to back down or Iran, because it's a matter of prestige for Iran. And it has the kind of prestige, the image, the pro-resistance image it has built in the region for over years. Iran cannot let it go. And we have to wait till the official confirmation that what is the status of Hassan Nasrallah and what is the response of Iran. Then only we can signal that which way direction this region could go. Because there is a very high possibility that this region could plunge in a full-scale war with very devastating consequences.